The antiseptic smell of the pediatric ward clung to my scrubs, even after my shift ended, mixing with the faint sweetness of the juice boxes I'd distributed during afternoon rounds. I stripped off my cartoon-printed top in the staff locker room, my fingers automatically checking the small bump that had started showing at 6 weeks. Still barely there, easy to hide under the loose clothing I'd been choosing lately. 27 years old, and I was about to become a mother. Alone. The thought should have terrified me more than it did. Maybe I was still numb from 3 months ago, from the memory of standing in Raphael's marble foyer holding an ultrasound printout while he tore it to pieces in front of me. The sound of that paper ripping had been so much quieter than I'd expected. Quieter than my heartbreak. I pulled on jeans and a soft sweater, gathering my bag from the locker. Karen caught me at the door, her blonde hair escaping from her nurse's cap, concern etched across her features. "You're sure you don't want company tonight?" she asked, not for the first time this week. "I can bring takeout. We can watch those terrible reality shows you pretend not to love." I managed a smile that felt more genuine than most I'd manufactured lately. "I'm fine, really. Just tired." "You're always tired lately." Her eyes dropped to my midsection for a fraction of a second. She knew. Of course she knew. Karen had worked pediatrics with me for 3 years. She could read vital signs and pregnancy symptoms equally well. But she respected my silence, waiting for me to be ready to talk about it. "Growing a human is exhausting work," I said lightly, finally giving her the confirmation she'd been waiting for. "Even at 6 weeks. Her face transformed with joy, then immediately shifted to protective concern. "The father isn't in the picture." I kept my voice steady, practiced. "And that's fine. I'm handling it." The lie tasted familiar by now. I wasn't fine. I was heartbroken and scared, and sometimes late at night I still felt the ghost of Raphael's hands on my skin, the weight of his presence in the dark, the way his voice had softened when we were alone together. The man I'd known in those stolen 4 months had been different from the one who destroyed my ultrasound. Warmer, almost vulnerable. That man had been a performance. The real Raphael was the one who'd looked at me with ice in his gray eyes and called me a liar. I left through the hospital's side entrance, avoiding the main lobby where families gathered and hope still existed in concentrated doses. The November air bit through my sweater immediately, reminding me I'd forgotten to check the weather forecast again. Pregnancy brain, the books called it. I called it exhaustion, layered on top of heartbreak, layered on top of the everyday fatigue of caring for sick children 8 hours a day. My apartment was 12 blocks away. I could have taken the bus, but walking helped me think, helped me process the day's accumulated stress. Tonight I needed that processing time more than usual, because tomorrow I had my first official prenatal appointment. Tomorrow it would all become real in a way that a home pregnancy test and a quietly obtained ultrasound hadn't quite managed. I made it 4 blocks before I noticed the car. Black sedan, expensive but not flashy, keeping pace with me exactly half a block behind. My nursing instincts kicked in immediately, the same ones that could spot a child's distress from across a crowded waiting room. Something was wrong. Someone was watching. I turned down a side street, testing. The car followed. My heart rate picked up, pulse points throbbing in my wrists and throat. I wasn't paranoid. I was being followed. And there was only one person in this city with the resources and the motivation to have me followed. 3 months. He'd left me alone for 3 entire months. Why now? I stopped walking and turned to face the car directly, hands on my hips in a posture I'd perfected while dealing with difficult parents in the pediatric ward. The car stopped too, idling 20 feet away. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the back door opened. Klaus Fischer emerged first, Raphael's head of security, a mountain of a man with ice-blue eyes and the kind of stillness that suggested violence could erupt at any moment. I'd met him twice during those 4 secret months, brief encounters when he'd picked me up for clandestine meetings with his boss. "Miss Becker," he said, his German accent more pronounced than I remembered. "Mr. Hoffman requests your presence." "Mr. Hoffman can request all he wants." I turned away, resuming my walk. "I'm not interested." "Astrid." The second voice stopped me cold. Raphael stepped out of the car himself, and I hated how my body reacted, hated the way my breath caught, the way heat flooded my cheeks, the way every cell remembered 4 months of stolen touches and whispered promises. He looked exactly the same. Dark hair perfectly styled, charcoal suit that probably cost more than my entire year's rent, gray eyes that could freeze or burn depending on his mood. Right now they were studying me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "I have nothing to say to you," I said, proud of how steady my voice remained. 3 months ago I would have cried. 3 months ago I would have begged him to believe me. That version of Astrid had died in his foyer, torn to pieces like the ultrasound. "I have something to say to you." He moved closer, and I noticed Klaus subtly positioning himself to block my escape route. "Please, 5 minutes." "You had 5 minutes 3 months ago. You used them to call me a liar and destroy the proof I brought you." I crossed my arms over my chest, partly defensive, partly to hide the way my hands wanted to shake. "I'm done giving you my time." Something flickered in his expression. Regret, maybe, or something that looked like it if you squinted hard enough. "I was wrong." The words hung in the cold November air between us. I stared at him, searching for the trap, the angle, the manipulation. Raphael Hoffman didn't apologize. Raphael Hoffman didn't admit mistakes. Raphael Hoffman built an empire on being right and destroying anyone who suggested otherwise. "You were wrong," I repeated flatly. "About what, specifically? Wrong to tear up my ultrasound? Wrong to accuse me of being a gold digger? Wrong to throw me out of your house like I was garbage?" My voice rose despite my best efforts to stay calm. "Which particular wrongness are you here to address, Raphael?" He flinched. Actual, visible recoil at the bite in my tone. Good. He deserved worse. "All of it," he said quietly. "I was wrong about all of it." "Why?" The question came out sharper than glass. "What changed? Did you finally realize I had no reason to lie? Did someone point out that I never asked you for money, never tried to trap you, never did anything except exist in your orbit and make the mistake of falling for you?" I saw a doctor. The admission seemed to cost him. A new doctor. He ran tests, comprehensive tests. My mind, trained to process medical information quickly, made the connection before he finished speaking. "You thought you were sterile." I was told I was sterile. At 22, after an attempt on my life that put me in the hospital for 6 weeks. His jaw tightened. The doctors were certain, definitive. I believed them for 14 years. I watched him, this powerful man who'd broken my heart, standing in the middle of a sidewalk, admitting to a vulnerability I'd never suspected. Part of me wanted to feel sympathy. The part that had spent 4 months learning the careful way he held his espresso cup. The rare, genuine smiles. The unexpected tenderness when he thought no one was watching. But the larger part of me, the part that had been forged in the furnace of his rejection, felt only cold satisfaction. "So you're here because your new doctor told you there's a chance?" I supplied the rest of his unspoken sentence. "A chance that you were wrong to destroy my ultrasound and my trust in one convenient gesture?" "Yes." No elaboration, no excuses. Just, yes. "And you think I care?" I stepped closer to him, close enough to smell his cologne. Something expensive and complex that used to make me feel safe. Now it just made me angry. "You think I spent 3 months crying into my pillow waiting for you to realize you made a mistake?" You think I need your validation or your money or your presence in my life?" His eyes widened slightly. This wasn't the Astrid he remembered, the sweet pediatric nurse who'd looked at him like he hung the moon. That woman had needed his approval, had craved his attention, had molded herself into whatever shape would keep him interested. This Astrid had learned to survive his absence. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness," he started. "You're right. You don't." I cut him off cleanly. "You also don't deserve my time, my energy, or my consideration. I'm having this baby. Alone. That was always the plan since the moment you tore up that ultrasound. Nothing you say now changes that. Let me help." His hand moved like he wanted to reach for me, then dropped. "Financially, at least. If the child is mine." "If?" The word was acid. "Still if, Raphael? Even after your medical revelation?" The test confirmed my fertility was restored, but it's recent. Rare. The doctors aren't certain when it happened or how stable it is. He ran a hand through his perfect hair, the first sign of actual distress I'd seen. "I need to know for certain. Let me arrange a paternity test, proper medical care, everything you need." "I have medical care. I have everything I need." The lie was getting easier every time I told it. "What I don't have is time for this conversation. So if you're done absolving your conscience, I want to be involved." The words came out rushed, desperate even. "If there's any chance this child is mine, I want to be part of their life, part of your pregnancy, part of—" "No." The single syllable stopped him mid-sentence. I watched him process my refusal, saw the calculation happening behind those gray eyes. He was used to getting what he wanted through money, or power, or sheer force of will. I was a problem he couldn't solve with any of those tools. "Astrid, please. 3 months ago, I stood in your house and told you I was pregnant. I kept my voice level, clinical, the way I spoke to parents delivering difficult diagnoses. I brought you proof. I asked for nothing except acknowledgement. And you destroyed that proof and called me a liar." I paused, letting the memory settle between us. "So no, Raphael. You don't get to be involved now just because your doctors changed their minds about your fertility. You made your choice. I'm making mine." I turned and walked away, half expecting him to follow, to argue, to use some of that famous Hoffman intimidation. But he let me go. I made it 3 more blocks before my hands started shaking so badly I had to stop and lean against a building. He'd apologized. Raphael Hoffman had apologized. And I'd thrown it back in his face because I couldn't afford to be the sweet, forgiving Astrid anymore. That version of me had gotten her heart broken. This harder version would protect her child, even if it meant protecting them from their own father. I made it home somehow, climbed the 3 flights to my studio apartment, and locked the door behind me. Only then did I let myself cry. Not for him, but for the version of us that had existed in those secret 4 months. For the relationship that had felt real, even though it had always been built on sand. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. "I understand your anger. I deserve it. But I won't stop trying. You and the child deserve better than what I gave you. I intend to prove that. R." I deleted the message without responding. Let him try. Let him throw his money and his power at this problem. I'd spent 3 months learning to be stone. He was about to discover just how cold stone could be. The flowers arrived at the hospital 3 days later. Not a modest bouquet. A garden's worth of white roses and peonies that took up half the nurse's station and made the entire pediatric ward smell like a wedding. The card was simple. "For your strength." Our Karen whistled low when she saw them. Either someone died, or someone's in serious trouble. Both, probably, I muttered, shoving the card into my scrub's pocket. "Can you have them sent to the children's ward? The kids will enjoy them more than I will." But the flowers were just the beginning. The next morning, I discovered my student loan debt had been paid in full. The morning after that, my landlord called to inform me my lease had been purchased outright, and I now owned my studio apartment. By the end of the week, a college fund had been established in my name for future educational expenses. I recognized the pattern. Raphael Hoffman didn't know how to apologize with words, so he was apologizing with money. Typical. What wasn't typical was his restraint. He didn't show up at the hospital again. Didn't corner me on the street. Didn't send Klaus to intimidate me into compliance. He was giving me space while simultaneously demonstrating that space meant nothing when you had unlimited resources. It should have made me angrier. Instead, I felt something uncomfortably close to reluctant admiration for the strategy. "You need to talk to him," Karen said during our lunch break, 2 weeks into Raphael's financial siege. "He's not going to stop." I know. I pushed food around my plate, my appetite killed by morning sickness that had finally arrived with a vengeance. That's the problem. He's proving he can insert himself into my life whether I want him there or not. Is that what you're afraid of? That he'll take control? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I'm afraid I'll let him. I spent 4 months turning myself into whoever he needed me to be. Sweet Astrid, accommodating Astrid, the woman who rearranged her schedule for secret meetings and pretended she didn't mind being hidden like a shameful secret. I met Karen's eyes. I'm afraid that if I let him back in, I'll disappear again. You're not that woman anymore. No. I touched my stomach, where the bump was starting to show despite my loose scrubs. I can't afford to be. My phone buzzed. Another message from the unknown number that I knew was Raphael. "Dinner tonight? I promise no pressure. Just a conversation. You choose the restaurant." I stared at the message for a long moment. He was being patient, respectful even, giving me control of the location, the timing. It was more consideration than I'd ever gotten during our 4 months together. Maybe that was what made me type back, Giovanni's. 7 p.m. "You're paying." His response came immediately. I wouldn't dream of anything else. Giovanni's was a small Italian restaurant 3 blocks from my apartment, the kind of place where the owner knew your name and the pasta was made fresh every morning. I'd discovered it during my first month in the city, when everything felt overwhelming and I'd needed somewhere that felt like home. I arrived early, claiming the corner table that gave me a clear view of both the entrance and the emergency exit. Nursing instincts died hard. Raphael walked in at exactly 7 p.m., and I watched every woman in the restaurant track his movement. He commanded attention the way some people commanded armies, effortlessly, inevitably. But tonight, his focus was entirely on me. He'd dressed down, still expensive. The man probably slept in designer pajamas, but a sweater instead of a suit, no tie, his hair slightly less perfect than usual. Trying to look approachable, maybe, less intimidating. It didn't work. Raphael Hoffman was intimidating the way winter was cold. It was simply his nature. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," he said, sitting across from me without waiting for invitation. "I know you didn't have to. You're right, I didn't." I sipped my water, grateful it was staying down. "But I'm tired of wondering what your angle is, so let's hear it. What do you want, Raffaele?" "To be a father. Simple, direct. If the child is mine." "When we confirm the child is yours," I corrected. "Not if. When. I was with no one else during those 4 months. You were my only partner." I paused, watching him process that. "Which you would have known if you'd asked instead of assuming I was lying." His jaw tightened. I had reasons to believe what I believed. 14 years of medical certainty. Yes, I understand that now. I leaned forward. But here's what I understand better. You didn't just doubt the paternity. You doubted me. You looked at a woman you'd spent 4 months with and immediately assumed the worst. That's what hurt, Raphael. Not that you couldn't believe you were fertile, but that you could so easily believe I was a liar. I was wrong. So you keep saying. The waiter arrived, and I ordered minestrone and breadsticks, the only things I could reliably keep down lately. Raphael ordered something I didn't pay attention to, his focus never leaving my face. But wrong doesn't fix broken, does it? No. He waited until the waiter left, but I'd like the chance to try. Why? I challenged. Because your doctors told you there's a possibility? Because your guilt is keeping you up at night? Because the great Raphael Hoffman doesn't like loose ends? Because I miss you. The admission hung between us, unexpected and dangerous. I felt my carefully constructed walls tremble. You miss the version of me who didn't know better than to trust you, I said, but my voice had lost some of its edge. That woman doesn't exist anymore. I know. He reached across the table, stopping just short of touching my hand. I see that, and honestly, this version of you, the one who calls me out, who refuses to be intimidated, who deleted my first 10 messages without responding, this version is magnificent. I pulled my hand back before he could close that final distance. Don't. Don't what? Don't charm me. Don't use that voice, the one you used when we were alone together. Don't try to remind me of what we had, because what we had was a lie. I forced steel into my tone. You kept me secret. 4 months of meetings in private, of text messages from unknown numbers, of making sure no one from your world ever saw us together. I was your shameful secret, Raphael. Don't pretend otherwise. You weren't... He stopped, reconsidered. You're right. I kept you separate from my business, from my family. I told myself it was to protect you. From what? From everything. His hand curled into a fist on the table. My world isn't safe, Astrid. The people in it, the things they do. I didn't want that touching you. So instead you touched me in the dark and disappeared during the day. I shook my head. That's not protection, Raphael. That's convenience. The food arrived, giving us both a moment to regroup. I focused on my soup, willing it to stay down, while Raphael largely ignored his meal. I want to do better, he said finally. I want to be present for the pregnancy, for the birth, for everything that comes after. No more secrets, no more hiding. That's a pretty promise from a man whose entire empire runs on secrets. Then let me prove it. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then showed me the screen. It was a social media post, his official account, the one with millions of followers, announcing that he was expecting a child and requesting privacy for the mother during this time. I stared at the post, then at him. You just told the entire world you're going to be a father. Yes. Before the paternity test. Yes. Before you're even certain. I'm certain. His gray eyes held mine. I believe you, Astrid. Completely. And I'm claiming this child publicly because I should have claimed you publicly 3 months ago. My hands shook slightly as I set down my spoon. This was more than I'd expected. More than I'd let myself hope for during those long, lonely months. This doesn't fix everything, I said carefully. I know. I'm still angry at you. You should be. And I'm not going to make this easy for you. I wouldn't respect you if you did. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. I fell for a sweet pediatric nurse who saw good in everyone, but I think I'm falling harder for the woman who won't let me forget my mistakes. Don't. I held up a hand. Don't say you're falling for me. Don't make this about romance or second chances. This is about our child. That's all. For now, he agreed. But Astrid, I'm a patient man when I want something, and I want my family. The possessiveness in that last word should have alarmed me. Instead, it sent an unwelcome shiver down my spine. I remembered that tone from before, from the private moments when Raphael stopped being the cold businessman and became something more primal. One step at a time, I said firmly. First, the paternity test. Then we figure out co-parenting. Then, maybe, we see if there's anything else worth building. Agreed. He signaled for the check. When is your next prenatal appointment? Friday. Why? May I come with you? The request surprised me. I'd expected demands, not polite questions. You want to come to my doctor's appointment? I want to be part of this pregnancy. All of it. Every appointment, every milestone, every moment you're willing to share. He paused, but only if you want me there. I thought about it, weighing my anger against my curiosity, my hurt against the small, persistent hope that maybe he really had changed. Friday at 2 p.m., Dr. Meyer's office on Lexington. Don't be late. I won't. He paid the check, left an excessive tip, and stood. May I walk you home? I live 3 blocks away. I know. At my sharp look, he added, Klaus researched the neighborhood to make sure it was safe, not to invade your privacy. There's a difference. In my world, yes. He offered his arm. 3 blocks, Astrid. Let me at least pretend to be a gentleman. Against my better judgment, I took his arm. We walked in silence, the November cold having deepened into genuine winter. I noticed Klaus following at a discreet distance in that same black sedan. Does he always trail you? I asked. Always. Occupational hazard. Raphael glanced back at the car. He was the one who suggested I needed to try harder with you. Said any woman who could make me question myself was worth fighting for. Smart man. The smartest. He's also been running background checks on everyone in your life. I stopped walking. Excuse me? Not to invade your privacy, Raphael said quickly, but to make sure no one associated with my enemies gets close to you. You're carrying my child, Astrid. That makes you a target whether you like it or not. The reality of his world crashed over me again. I'd managed to forget, during those 4 secret months, exactly what kind of man Raphael Hoffman was. What he did. The empire he'd built on fear and power and carefully orchestrated violence. This is what you meant about your world not being safe, I said slowly. Yes. And now that I've acknowledged you publicly, it's going to get more complicated. He started walking again, and I fell into step beside him. I have enemies, Astrid. People who would love to find a weakness in my armor. You and our child are that weakness. So your protection is just self-interest. My protection is love. The word came out rough, unpracticed. Even if you never forgive me, even if we never rebuild what we had, I will keep you safe, both of you. That's not negotiable. We reached my building. I extracted my arm from his, creating distance. Friday at 2 p.m. Don't bring Klaus into the doctor's office. It'll freak out the other patients. He'll wait in the car. Raphael hesitated, then said, Thank you for giving me this chance. I'm not giving you anything except an opportunity to meet your responsibility. I started up the steps, then paused. And Raphael? Delete my student loan records, reverse the apartment purchase, and close that college fund. I don't want your money. The money isn't for you, it's for our child. Our child doesn't need a college fund yet. They need a father who respects boundaries. I met his eyes steadily. Prove you can do that before you try to buy your way into my life. I left him standing on the sidewalk and didn't look back until I reached my apartment. From the window, I could see him still standing there, looking up at my building like it held answers he desperately needed. My phone buzzed. Boundaries respected. The transactions will be reversed by morning. But I'm keeping the flowers coming. You can't stop me from sending flowers. Despite everything, I smiled. Friday arrived wrapped in the first real snowfall of December. I stood at my apartment window watching fat flakes drift past, one hand resting on my stomach where the bump had become unmistakable at 10 weeks. The morning sickness had evolved into all-day nausea that made work challenging, but I refused to take time off. The children needed me, and I needed the distraction. My phone showed 1:47 p.m. Raphael would be here in 13 minutes, punctual as always. True to his word, he'd reversed all the financial transactions. The student loans reappeared on my account. The apartment deed returned to my landlord. The college fund dissolved. But the flowers kept coming. A different arrangement every 3 days. Always with cards that said things like, "For your courage, and for our future." And once, simply, "Forgive me." I hadn't forgiven him. But I'd stopped throwing the flowers away. Karen had pointed out that this was progress. I'd pointed out that it was weakness. We'd agreed to disagree over coffee and prenatal vitamins. The intercom buzzing interrupted my thoughts. I pressed the button. "Yes." "Astrid." Raphael's voice, slightly distorted by the old speaker system. "I'm early. May I come up?" "You can wait in the lobby like everyone else." A pause. "It's snowing." "You'll survive." I released the button, smiling despite myself. Small victories mattered. At exactly 2 p.m., I descended to find him shaking snow from his dark coat, his hair slightly disheveled from the wind. He looked almost human like this, less polished than usual. It reminded me of the version of him I'd known during those 4 months, the one who'd shown up at my door at midnight with takeout and stories about his day. That version had been real, I'd realized recently, just incomplete. "Ready?" he asked, offering his arm again. I ignored it, pulling on my own coat. Dr. Meyer's office is 6 blocks. We're walking. "In the snow?" "I'm pregnant, not fragile." I stepped past him into the December afternoon. "Keep up." I heard his quiet laugh behind me as he followed. The walk was silent but not uncomfortable. Raphael seemed content to match my pace, his presence solid beside me without being overwhelming. Klaus followed in the sedan, as always, maintaining that careful distance that somehow made me feel both protected and surveilled. "Tell me about Dr. Meyer," Raphael said as we crossed the 3rd block. "What about him? Is he competent? Well-reviewed? Should I be consulting with specialists about high-risk pregnancy protocols?" I stopped walking to stare at him. "I'm 27, healthy, and experiencing a completely normal pregnancy. Why would I need specialists?" "You're carrying the child of someone with considerable enemies." His jaw tightened. "That introduces complications beyond the typical medical concerns." "Raphael, I appreciate the protective instinct, but I'm not letting your paranoia dictate my medical care." I started walking again. "Dr. Meyer has been my doctor for 3 years. He delivered my best friend's twins last year. He's excellent, and I trust him. But does he understand security protocols? Can his office be secured against potential threats? You're not putting armed guards in my obstetrician's waiting room." "I wasn't suggesting armed guards, just Klaus." "No." "Astrid?" "No, Raphael." I stopped again, turning to face him fully. The snow was falling harder now, catching in his dark hair, making him look younger somehow. "This is exactly what I meant about boundaries. You don't get to turn my pregnancy into a military operation because you're scared. You don't get to make me a prisoner of your fears. I'm trying to keep you safe." "Then respect my choices." I softened slightly at the genuine worry in his eyes. "I understand your world is dangerous. I'm not naive about what dating you might have exposed me to. But I won't live in fear, and I won't raise our child that way either. So you can come to the appointment as the father, or you can stay outside with Klaus as the security concern. Choose." He studied me for a long moment, snow accumulating on his shoulders. Then he nodded slowly. "I'll come as the father. No security protocols, no paranoia. Just a man meeting his child for the first time." "Good choice." We reached Dr. Meyer's office 5 minutes later. The waiting room was warm, and decorated with pastel murals of storks and babies, soft music playing from hidden speakers. 3 other pregnant women sat in various stages of waiting, their partners beside them looking nervous or excited or both. I checked in with the receptionist, very aware of Raphael beside me, radiating barely suppressed tension. This wasn't his world. The casual intimacy of shared medical experiences, the mundane normalcy of waiting rooms and insurance forms. He looked like a panther trapped in a pet shop, dangerous and completely out of place. "Relax," I murmured as we sat. "No one's going to attack me in an obstetrician's office." "You don't know that. I know that if you keep scanning for threats like you're expecting a tactical assault, you're going to terrify the other patients." I picked up a pregnancy magazine, flipping through it without really reading. Try to blend in. I don't blend, clearly. But I was fighting a smile. "Miss Becker?" A nurse appeared in the doorway, clipboard in hand. "Dr. Meyer is ready for you." We followed her back to an examination room painted a soothing blue. Raphael's eyes tracked every detail. The medical equipment, the locked cabinets, the single window that overlooked a busy street. I could practically see him cataloging vulnerabilities and escape routes. "First appointment with Dad?" the nurse asked cheerfully, setting up the ultrasound equipment. "Yes," I answered before Raphael could. "He's nervous." "Completely normal." She smiled at him kindly. "It gets easier after you see them for the first time. Makes it all real." Dr. Meyer entered then, a kind-faced man in his 50s who'd been delivering babies since before I was born. He shook Raphael's hand with professional warmth, seemingly oblivious to the tension radiating from his newest patient's father. "Astrid's told me a lot about you," Dr. Meyer said, which was a lie, but a kind one. "Nothing good, I'm sure," Raphael replied, surprising me with his honesty. "She mentioned you had concerns about the pregnancy." "Dr. Gnome," Meyer gestured for me to lie back on the examination table. "Anything specific you'd like to discuss?" "I want to make sure she's getting the best possible care." "She is." Dr. Meyer's tone was gentle but firm. "Astrid is healthy. The pregnancy is progressing normally, and barring any unexpected complications, I see no reason this won't be a perfectly routine delivery. And if there are complications, then we address them with established medical protocols and considerable expertise." Dr. Meyer smiled. "I've been doing this for 28 years, Mr. Hoffman. Your child is in good hands." I watched Raphael absorb this, saw him trying to surrender control to someone else's expertise. It clearly pained him. "Now then," Dr. Meyer said, warming the ultrasound gel between his hands before applying it to my stomach. "Let's meet your baby." The screen flickered to life, grainy and strange at first, then resolving into a shape I recognized from the ultrasound I'd brought to Raphael 3 months ago. But the baby was bigger now, more defined, moving in small, jerky motions that made my breath catch. "There we are," Dr. Meyer said softly. 10 weeks, measuring perfectly on schedule. Strong heartbeat. The sound filled the room, rapid, rhythmic, impossibly alive. I'd heard it at my previous appointment, but it still made my eyes sting with unexpected tears. That was my baby, our baby, real and growing and already so loved. I glanced at Raphael and found him staring at the screen with an expression I'd never seen before. Wonder, maybe, or terror, possibly both. "That's..." He couldn't seem to finish the sentence. "Your child," I supplied quietly. "Still think I was lying?" "No." The word came out rough. "God, Astrid, I'm so sorry." Dr. Meyer, wisely, pretended to be very focused on taking measurements while Raphael dealt with his emotions. I let him have the moment, understanding that this was perhaps the first time in 14 years he'd allowed himself to imagine being a father. "Everything looks excellent," Dr. Meyer said finally, printing out several ultrasound images. Due date is June 17th. Any questions? Paternity test, Raphael said. Can we arrange one? Dr. Meyer looked at me for confirmation. I nodded. It's important to him. We can do a non-invasive prenatal paternity test at 9 weeks, which you've just reached. Dr. Meyer made a note. It's a simple blood draw from Astrid, and a cheek swab from you, Mr. Hoffman. Results take about a week. How soon can we schedule it? Eager to confirm? Dr. Meyer's tone was neutral. Eager to have documentation, I said, so there's no question later. Understanding passed between me and Raphael. This wasn't about him doubting me anymore. This was about protecting us legally, establishing his rights and responsibilities in a way that couldn't be disputed. We scheduled the paternity test for the following week. Dr. Meyer handed me the ultrasound photos, gave Raphael a prescription for prenatal vitamins, for the mother, but fathers often like to feel involved, and sent us on our way with a reminder to schedule the next appointment in a month. The snow had intensified while we were inside, turning the city white and quiet. Raphael held the door for me, and we stepped into the winter afternoon together. Thank you, he said after a few blocks, for letting me be there. You're the father. You had the right. Rights and privileges aren't the same thing. He stopped walking, turning to face me despite the snow. You could have shut me out completely. Many women would have after what I did. But you gave me a chance to see our child, to hear their heartbeat, to start understanding what I almost threw away. I pulled my coat tighter, chilled despite my warm layers. I'm not doing this for you, Raffaele. I'm doing it for them. I touched my stomach. They deserve a father who's present and involved, even if that father is you. Especially because that father is me. His hand covered mine on my stomach, warm through the fabric. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm asking anyway. Not because I expect it, but because I need you to know. What I did was unforgivable. But I'm going to spend every day trying to earn my way back into your trust. That's going to take a long time. I have time. He didn't move his hand. And patience. And a considerable amount of stubbornness. I've noticed. I should have stepped back, created distance. Instead, I stood there in the falling snow with his hand covering mine, both of us touching the place where our child grew. The paternity test is a formality. You know that, right? I wasn't with anyone else. I know, but you deserve the documentation. Proof that I believe you, that I'm claiming this child and you legally and completely. His gray eyes held mine. No more secrets, Astrid. No more hiding. Whatever we build from here, it's going to be honest. Even if what we build is just co-parenting, even then. But something in his expression suggested he hoped for more. Klaus pulled up beside us, the passenger window lowering. Boss, the snow's getting worse. We should get Miss Becker home. Raphael looked at me questioningly. I nodded, too cold and tired to argue about accepting a ride. He opened the back door, helping me in with a gentleness that reminded me of the man I'd fallen for months ago. The drive to my apartment took less than 5 minutes. When we pulled up, Raphael walked me to my building's entrance despite Klaus's visible concern about the exposed position. Thank you for today, Raphael said again. For everything. Stop thanking me. It's unsettling. But I was almost smiling. Would you have dinner with me tomorrow? Somewhere public. Your choice. Just talking. I studied him. This powerful, dangerous man who'd broken my heart and was now asking permission for my time. Why? Because I want to know you again. Not the version I knew before, but this version. The one who stands in the snow telling me off. The one who sets boundaries and doesn't let me bulldoze over them. He paused. The mother of my child. One dinner, but I'm ordering the most expensive thing on the menu. I'd be disappointed if you didn't." He smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. "I'll pick you up at 7. I'll meet you there at 7:30. Text me the address." "Still don't trust me." "Still earning it back," I corrected. "Good night, Raphael." I left him standing in the snow and climbed to my apartment. From the window, I watched the black sedan pull away, carrying him back to whatever empire building he had scheduled for his evening. My phone buzzed with the ultrasound photo Dr. Meyer had sent to my email. I stared at the grainy image of our child, at the proof that something good had come from those 4 complicated months. Another message appeared. "Tomorrow at 7:30, La Fontana on West 52nd. Wear something comfortable." I saved the ultrasound photo as my phone background and tried not to think about how easily he was working his way back into my heart. La Fontana was the kind of restaurant where people proposed and celebrated anniversaries, all soft lighting and intimate corners designed for romance. I arrived at exactly 7:30, scanning the space until I found Raphael already seated at a corner table that offered him a view of both entrances. Old habits, I supposed. The man couldn't even enjoy pasta without tactical advantage. He stood when he saw me approaching, and I noticed he'd dressed carefully. Dark slacks and a gray sweater that made his eyes look like storm clouds, the kind of casual elegance that came from having someone choose his wardrobe who understood both fashion and function. "You look beautiful," he said as I sat. "I look pregnant and exhausted." But I'd worn the burgundy dress I knew he liked, the one from our second date that he'd spent 20 minutes telling me I should keep on. "But thank you." We ordered. I chose the lobster risotto specifically because it was $38. Raphael ordered something and then ignored it when it arrived, and fell into an unexpectedly comfortable silence. "Tell me about work," he said finally. "How are the children?" The question surprised me. During our previous relationship, he'd rarely asked about my job beyond polite inquiries. Their children, sick, scared, brave, resilient. We had a 4-year-old come in this week with pneumonia, who insisted on reading stories to the other kids, even though she could barely breathe. I had to confiscate her book. And she probably hated you for it. She called me a mean nurse and demanded I give it back. I smiled at the memory. Then she drew me a picture of a flower as an apology. "It's on my locker. You love them." It wasn't a question. Of course I love them. They're children. How could I not? I toyed with my water glass. That's why I became a pediatric nurse, because children deserve advocates who see them as people, not just patients. Our child is lucky to have you as a mother. The words settled between us, weighted with meaning. I looked up to find him watching me with an intensity that made my skin warm. "Don't," I said softly. "Don't what?" "Don't look at me like that, like I'm something precious you've found again." I set down my glass carefully. "I'm not yours to claim, Raffaele. I'm just the woman carrying your child. You're more than that. To you, maybe, in your head." I leaned forward. "But we had 4 months together, most of it in the dark, all of it secret. You don't actually know me, Raphael. You know the version of me who was trying to be whatever you needed. And now? Now I'm just trying to be myself." I paused as the waiter delivered our food, which means being honest. I don't know if I can forgive what you did. I don't know if we can build anything beyond co-parenting. And I need you to be okay with that uncertainty. He was quiet for a long moment, studying his untouched plate. When he spoke, his voice was careful, measured. "When I was 22, I was supposed to die. The doctors told my family to say their goodbyes. I was bleeding internally, my spine was compromised, and my organs were failing. They didn't think I'd make it through the night." I waited, recognizing the significance of what he was sharing. I survived, obviously, but the damage was extensive. Part of the recovery process involved discovering that I would never have biological children. The doctors were very certain. His hand tightened on his fork. I spent 14 years building my life around that certainty. I didn't allow myself to imagine a family because that future didn't exist for me. And then I showed up with an ultrasound. And then you showed up with proof of something impossible. He finally met my eyes. I should have listened, should have considered that maybe medical science isn't infallible. But all I could see was confirmation of what I already believed, that I was being manipulated by someone who wanted access to my money and power. I never wanted your money or power. I know that now. I think I knew it then, too, underneath the fear. He pushed his plate away untouched. But fear makes cowards of us all, doesn't it? And I was terrified of wanting something I couldn't have. You could have talked to me, could have explained. I could have, should have, didn't. He pulled something from his pocket, a folded piece of paper worn soft from handling. This is the ultrasound I destroyed, or what's left of it. I kept the pieces. I stared at the taped-together image, my heart clenching at the care someone had taken to preserve it. Why? Because the moment you walked away, I knew I'd made the worst mistake of my life. I just didn't know how to fix it. He set the paper between us. Then my new doctor ran comprehensive tests and discovered my fertility had been restored. Rare, he said. Almost impossible, but possible. When? The restoration? They think within the last year. Something about tissue regeneration and healing that they don't fully understand. He touched the ultrasound gently. Which means when you came to me, I was already fertile again. I just didn't know it, and I was too scared to believe it. I looked at the taped-together image, at the proof of his regret. You can't keep this. It's creepy. I know. And you can't buy my forgiveness with romantic gestures and expensive dinners. I know that too. But you're trying anyway. I'm trying everything. He leaned forward, his expression open in a way I'd never seen. Because losing you once nearly destroyed me. Losing you and our child would finish the job. So yes, I'm trying. I'm trying to prove I can be better than the man who hurt you. I'm trying to build something honest with you. I'm trying to earn my way back into your life, even if it takes years. It will take years. Then I'll spend years proving myself. He reached across the table, stopping just short of touching my hand. But Astrid, I need you to understand something. My world is dangerous. The people in it are ruthless, and now that I've acknowledged you publicly, you're a target. You keep saying that. Because it's true. His jaw tightened. I have security protocols in place around you already. Klaus has assigned teams to monitor your movements, your apartment, the hospital. I've had background checks run on everyone in your life. I pulled my hand back sharply. You what? I'm protecting you. You're invading my privacy. Anger flared, hot and immediate. I told you about boundaries, Raphael. I specifically said, I know what you said, and I respect it in every way except this one. His voice hardened. Your safety is non-negotiable. I will not compromise on that, even if it makes you hate me. It does make me hate you. I can live with your hatred if it means you're alive to hate me. He stood abruptly. Excuse me. He walked away before I could respond, leaving me alone with my expensive risotto and my fury. I should have left. Should have walked out and made my point about autonomy and respect. But then my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Leave now. East exit. Klaus is waiting. Don't ask questions. Are my nursing instincts kicked in before my anger could? Something was wrong. Raphael didn't send cryptic texts unless there was genuine danger. I stood carefully, gathering my coat and bag, trying to look casual despite my racing heart. The east exit led to a service corridor. Klaus materialized beside me immediately, his hand gentle on my elbow. "This way, Miss Becker. Quickly, please." "What's happening?" "Mr. Hoffman received a credible threat. Someone knew you were here tonight." He guided me through unfamiliar hallways, moving with practiced efficiency. "We're getting you somewhere safe." We emerged into an alley where a different car waited, this one armored and inconspicuous. Klaus bundled me into the back seat, and we pulled away just as I heard raised voices from inside the restaurant. "Raffaele," I said urgently. "Is he—" "He's handling it. He'll meet us at the safe house." "Safe house?" My voice rose. "I don't want to go to a safe house. I want to go home. Your apartment isn't secure enough." Klaus's tone was apologetic but firm. "Not after tonight." We drove for 20 minutes, heading north out of the city. I watched the familiar streets give way to unfamiliar ones, watched my independence slip away kilometer by kilometer. This was what Raphael had meant about his world being dangerous. This was the price of carrying his child. The safe house turned out to be a modern fortress in Westchester, all clean lines and bulletproof glass. Klaus escorted me inside, introducing me to additional security personnel whose names I immediately forgot. "Mr. Hoffman will be here shortly," Klaus assured me. "You're safe here, Miss Becker. No one can reach you." "I don't want to be unreachable," I said, hearing the hysteria creeping into my voice. "I want my life back." "I know." Klaus's expression softened with genuine sympathy. "I'm sorry it came to this." He left me alone in a bedroom that was both luxurious and obviously a cage. I sank onto the bed, cradling my stomach where our child grew, and tried not to cry. I'd wanted Raphael to respect my boundaries, to treat me like an equal partner in this pregnancy, but I'd underestimated the reality of his world. The danger wasn't theoretical. It was real, immediate, and apparently targeting me specifically. Footsteps in the hallway made me look up. Raphael appeared in the doorway, his sweater torn at the shoulder, a cut above his eyebrow that had bled and dried. "Are you hurt?" I demanded, on my feet immediately. "I'm fine. Klaus got you out in time?" "In time for what?" I crossed to him, examining the cut with professional assessment. "What happened?" 3 men in the restaurant. One had a gun. His hands came up to cup my face, his touch gentle despite the violence he'd clearly just survived. "They knew where you'd be. Someone in my organization talked. And you dealt with them." I neutralized the immediate threat. Klaus is handling the rest. He pressed his forehead to mine. "I'm sorry, Astrid. I'm so sorry. This is exactly what I was trying to prevent." "By invading my privacy and stalking me?" "By knowing where you are so I can protect you." His thumb brushed my cheek. "I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But please, please understand. I can't lose you. I can't lose this child. So if that means you hate me but you're safe, I'll accept that trade." I pulled back to clean his cut, dabbing at it with a tissue from the bedside table. "This needs antiseptic. You probably need stitches. I've had worse. That's not comforting." I worked carefully, avoiding his eyes. "How long do I have to stay here?" "Until we identify the leak and eliminate the threat. Days? Weeks? However long it takes." His hand settled on my waist, just below where our child grew. "I know this isn't what you wanted, but I need you to trust that I'm doing this to protect you, not control you. Those two things look remarkably similar from where I'm standing." "I know." He kissed my forehead gently. "But I promise, the moment it's safe, you can go back to your life. Your apartment, your job, your independence. All of it. I just need you alive to enjoy it." I wanted to argue. Wanted to demand he take me home immediately and prove that I could take care of myself. But the blood on his collar and the cut above his eyebrow reminded me that his world operated by different rules. Rules where pregnant nurses became targets simply because they carried the wrong man's child. 1 week, I said firmly. You have 1 week to make your apartment safe enough that I can go home. After that, I'm leaving whether you've caught your leak or not. 1 week. He agreed too quickly, which meant he was already planning to extend it. I mean it, Raphael. 1 week or I'm gone, and you can chase me all the way to the hospital when I go into labor in 6 months because I refuse to tell you where I am. That got his attention. His eyes widened slightly. You wouldn't. Try me. I stepped back, creating necessary distance. I'm grateful you got me out of the restaurant safely. I'm grateful you're taking threats seriously. But I am not a possession to be locked away in a safe house indefinitely. So find your leak, eliminate your threat, and give me back my life. Or lose any chance of being part of this pregnancy. That's not fair. Neither is kidnapping me to Westchester. I crossed my arms. 1 week, Raphael. Prove you can protect me without imprisoning me. Or walk away. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. 1 week. But Astrid, I'm not walking away. Not now. Not ever. So you better get used to having me around. We'll see. I moved toward the bathroom, needing space and privacy. Now get Klaus to bring me some actual antiseptic before that cut gets infected, and find me some food that isn't expensive Italian. I want tacos. His laugh followed me into the bathroom, warm and genuine. Tacos at midnight in Westchester. Shouldn't be impossible. It better not be. Your child wants tacos. I closed the door and leaned against it, listening to him make calls in rapid Italian. Despite everything, the danger, the safe house, the loss of control, I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the beginning of understanding. Raphael's world was dangerous, but he was trying, in his heavy-handed, overprotective way, to keep us safe. And maybe, just maybe, there was room for compromise between my need for independence and his need for control. If he could deliver tacos at midnight, anything was possible. The safe house had excellent Wi-Fi, which meant I could work remotely when Karen covered my shifts at the hospital. It had a kitchen stocked with everything I'd need to cook elaborate meals I had no interest in making. It had a library, a gym, and enough security personnel to staff a small army. What it didn't have was freedom. 3 days into my 1 week ultimatum, I was climbing the walls. Raphael visited every evening, bringing updates on the investigation that always seemed to be progressing without actually progressing. Klaus rotated his security teams with military precision, and I grew increasingly certain that I was never leaving this beautiful prison. The leak, Raphael said during dinner on the 4th night, came from my cousin's organization. Elsa Richter's people, specifically. I set down my fork. Your ex-fiancé's people? She was never my fiancé. That was a business arrangement my family attempted to negotiate when I was 28. He swirled wine he wouldn't drink. I refused to marry someone I didn't love. It caused considerable family friction. And now she's leaking information about me to trigger attacks? Apparently she's been nursing a grudge for 8 years. His mouth tightened. Klaus tracked the threat back to 3 men in her employ. They've been eliminated from the equation. I didn't ask what eliminated meant. Some translations were better left ambiguous. So, I can go home. Not yet. He reached across the table, and I let him take my hand because fighting every touch was exhausting. Elsa herself is still at large. Until we confirm she won't make another attempt. Another 3 days? Another week? I pulled my hand back. Raphael, I've been here 4 days. My patients are asking about me. My landlord is worried. My entire life is on hold because your ex-whatever can't accept rejection from 8 years ago. I know this is difficult. Difficult? I stood abruptly. I'm a prisoner. A comfortable, well-fed, excellently secured prisoner, but a prisoner nonetheless. And you keep extending my sentence because you can't guarantee perfect safety. I paced to the window, looking out at grounds I wasn't allowed to leave. Newsflash. You can't guarantee perfect safety. Life doesn't work that way. My life does. He joined me at the window. In my world, you plan for every contingency, eliminate every threat before it materializes, and accept nothing less than absolute control. That's exhausting. That's survival. His reflection in the glass looked tired in a way I'd never seen. I've lived this way for 14 years, since the attack that should have killed me. Control is the only thing that kept me alive. I turned to face him properly. I'm not asking you to stop protecting me. I'm asking you to trust that I can participate in my own safety. Let me learn to shoot. Teach me self-defense. Get me trained security awareness. But don't just lock me away and expect me to be grateful for the cage. Something shifted in his expression. You want to learn to shoot? I want to not be helpless. I crossed my arms over my growing stomach. I'm carrying your child, Raffaele. That makes me a permanent target according to you. So either teach me to protect myself, or accept that I'm going to live my life anyway and hope for the best. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Klaus can start self-defense training tomorrow. Firearms training after the baby is born. The recoil isn't safe during pregnancy, and I'll assign you a personal security detail you can actually tolerate instead of Klaus's entire army. I can choose my own security? Within reason. They have to meet Klaus's standards, which are extensive. But yes, you can interview them and select someone you're comfortable with. He paused. Does this mean you're staying? It means I'm willing to compromise. I returned to my seat, my food now cold. But Raphael, I need you to understand something. I'm not going to become a different person because I'm with you. I'm not going to hide away in safe houses and let fear dictate my choices. So if you want to be part of this pregnancy, part of our child's life, you need to accept that I come with a spine. His smile was unexpected and genuine. I'm counting on that spine. That's what's going to keep you safe when I can't be there. Good. I poked at my risotto. Now, can you please make this food hot again? Your child is hungry, and cold risotto is depressing. He took my plate without comment, returning minutes later with a fresh serving from the kitchen. We ate in companionable silence, and I felt something ease between us. Not forgiveness. I wasn't ready for that yet. But maybe understanding. Maybe respect. The paternity results came back, he said as we finished eating. My heart jumped. And 9% probability that I'm the father. He pulled out his phone, showing me the official documentation. Not that I doubted it after seeing the ultrasound, but now it's legally confirmed. I scanned the document, seeing our names linked officially for the first time. Raphael Hoffman and Astrid Becker, parents. The word felt strange and right simultaneously. So now what? I asked. Now I'd like to petition for joint custody arrangements. Not to take the baby from you, he added quickly, seeing my expression. But to establish legal parameters for our co-parenting, visitation, decision-making, financial support, all of it documented properly. You want a custody agreement before the baby is even born. I want us both protected legally. He leaned forward. Astrid, if something happened to me, I need to know you and our child are provided for. My will, my assets, my protection, all of it needs to be legally structured to include you both. I don't want your money. I know. But our child deserves security. They deserve to know that regardless of what happens between us, their future is stable. His hand covered mine on the table. Please. Let me do this. Let me provide for you both properly. I thought about my modest savings, my student loans that had mysteriously reappeared after Raphael reversed his financial intervention, my one-bedroom apartment with questionable heating. Then I thought about the child growing inside me, about giving them opportunities I'd never had. Joint custody, I said carefully. Equal decision-making on major issues, education, medical care, religion. You provide financial support, but I maintain my own income and independence. And any legal arrangements include provisions that I can't be isolated from my child regardless of security concerns. Agreed. No hesitation. I'll have my lawyers draft the paperwork. You can have your own legal counsel review it before signing. I don't have a lawyer. You do now. He pulled out another business card. Karen Weber, best family law attorney in the state, and coincidentally shares your best friend's name. Completely different person, obviously. I stared at the card. You hired me a lawyer. I hired you someone who will fight for your interests as hard as I fight for mine. He smiled slightly. Fair is fair, Astrid. I want this arrangement to work for both of us. Despite myself, I was impressed. You're learning. I'm trying. He stood, helping me up from my chair. It's late. You should rest. We walked toward the bedroom wing together, his hand resting lightly on the small of my back. At my door, he paused. Astrid, I know I don't deserve to ask this, but would you consider moving in with me? Not here, not the safe house, my actual home. It's secure, there's space for a nursery, and you'd have your own wing if you wanted distance. That's moving very fast. We're having a child together in 6 months. I'd argue we're moving at exactly the right speed. His thumb traced circles on my back. Think about it at least. No pressure, just consider it. I should have said no immediately. Should have reinforced my boundaries and independence. But standing there at 14 weeks pregnant, exhausted from fighting his overprotectiveness and my own conflicted feelings, I heard myself say, I'll think about it. His smile was sunrise. That's all I'm asking. He kissed my forehead gently, a gesture that was becoming familiar, and left me alone with my thoughts and my growing doubts about my ability to resist him. The next morning, Klaus introduced me to my potential security detail. 3 candidates, all former military, all intimidating in different ways. I chose the woman, Ingrid Schneider, late 30s, efficient and warm in equal measure. I have 3 kids of my own, she said during her interview. I understand the balance between protection and freedom. You'll be safe, but you won't feel smothered. You're hired. She started immediately, accompanying me on a walk around the safe house grounds that felt like my first breath of real air in days. We talked about pregnancy and security protocols and her own children, and I felt some of my tension ease. Maybe compromise was possible. Maybe Raphael's world and my independence could coexist. That afternoon, he called with news. Elsa has been located. My family is negotiating her surrender. His voice carried grim satisfaction. This will be over soon. And then you can go home. Or you can come home with me. Your choice. I looked around the safe house, at the life I'd been living for nearly a week. Comfortable but constrained. Protected but imprisoned. Was Raphael's penthouse really different? Or was it just a larger, more elegant cage? I'll think about it, I said again. Take all the time you need. A pause. Astrid? Thank you. For giving me this chance. For letting me try to be better. Don't thank me yet. You haven't proven anything except that you can afford good lawyers and excellent security. His laugh warmed something inside me I'd thought was frozen. Fair point. I'll keep working on it. After we hung up, I sat with my hand on my stomach, feeling the first flutter of movement that might have been the baby or might have been hope. Maybe Raphael really was trying to change. Maybe I could trust him again, not with my whole heart. That was still too damaged. But with pieces. With compromise. With the careful, gradual rebuilding of something new. Or maybe I was fooling myself, seeing what I wanted to see because being alone and pregnant was terrifying, and having Raphael's resources sounded easier than facing it all myself. I didn't know. But I had 6 more days in the safe house to figure it out. Elsa Richter surrendered on day 6 of my safe house captivity, negotiating terms that included exile from Raphael's territory and severing all business ties with his family. Klaus delivered this news over breakfast with the emotional investment of someone reporting the weather. "You're free to return to your apartment whenever you choose, Miss Becker." I set down my orange juice carefully. "Just like that?" "Mr. Hoffman has implemented additional security measures around your building. Ingrid will remain your primary detail. You can resume your normal schedule." Normal. The word felt foreign after a week of forced safety and careful negotiations. That afternoon, Raphael arrived to drive me home himself. We loaded my minimal belongings into his car. I'd been living in borrowed clothes from some mysterious source Klaus had arranged, and headed back toward the city. "Your apartment has been upgraded," Raphael said as we drove. "New locks, security cameras, reinforced door. Ingrid has keys and will be stationed in the building. If you're uncomfortable with that, it's fine." I watched the familiar neighborhoods reappear through the window. "Thank you for keeping me safe and for letting me go." "I'm not letting you go." His hand found mine across the center console. "I'm respecting your choice about where you feel most comfortable. There's a difference." We pulled up to my building, and I noticed the changes immediately. New security panel at the entrance. Fresh paint. Klaus standing guard near a black sedan that would apparently be a permanent fixture. Raphael walked me up to my apartment, carrying bags I could have managed myself. Inside, everything was exactly as I'd left it, except cleaner, organized, and somehow more secure feeling. "The nursery furniture will be delivered next week," he said, setting down my bags. I took the liberty of ordering a crib, changing table, and rocker. All neutral colors since we don't know the gender yet. "If you hate them..." "Raphael." I stopped his nervous rambling with a hand on his arm. "Thank you, for all of it." He looked at me then, really looked, and I saw the question he was afraid to ask. "I'm not moving in with you," I said gently. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. I need this space to be mine, to know I have somewhere that's separate from your world." "I understand. But," I continued, "you can stay tonight, if you want. Not for anything except sleep. I don't want to be alone my first night back." The relief on his face was palpable. "I'd like that." We ordered Thai food, my current craving, and ate on my small couch while I caught him up on hospital gossip and he pretended to be interested in which attending physician was sleeping with which resident. It felt almost normal, almost like the relationship we'd had before everything broke. "Dr. Meyer called while you were in the safe house," Raphael said as we finished eating. "Next appointment is in 2 weeks. He wants to do the anatomy scan. That's when we can find out the gender." I touched my stomach, now unmistakably rounded at 16 weeks. "Do you want to know?" "Do you?" I asked first. He smiled. "I want whatever you want." That's a cop-out answer. It's a truthful answer. He set aside his food, turning to face me fully. "Astrid, I'm going to be grateful for whatever we have. Boy, girl, doesn't matter. I spent 14 years believing I'd never have this. So no, I don't have a preference beyond healthy." Something in my chest cracked at the raw honesty. "I want to know. I want to start calling them something other than the baby. Then we'll find out together." We cleaned up dinner in comfortable silence, moving around my small kitchen with unexpected coordination. When Raphael pulled out his phone to check messages, I excused myself to shower and change into comfortable clothes. When I emerged, I found him standing at my bookshelf, examining my collection of nursing texts and romance novels with equal interest. "You read romance?" he asked, holding up a particularly tattered paperback. "Don't judge me. They're comforting." "I'm not judging. I'm wondering if I measure up to the fictional heroes." He set the book down carefully. "They always know the right thing to say, don't they? Never destroy ultrasounds or lock their pregnant girlfriends in safe houses. You're not my boyfriend. I know." He moved closer. "What am I then?" I considered the question honestly. "You're my child's father. You're someone I'm learning to trust again. You're—" I paused, searching for the right words. "You're someone I used to love who hurt me badly and is now trying very hard to prove he's changed." "Is it working? The trying?" "Sometimes." I sat on the couch, patting the space beside me. "Like tonight. This feels right. You respecting my space, asking instead of demanding, being present without being overwhelming." He joined me, careful to leave a respectful distance. "I'm trying to find the balance between protecting you and controlling you. Klaus says I'm failing spectacularly. Klaus is wise. Klaus is a pain in my ass who's been right about everything since I met him 12 years ago." Raphael's smile was rueful. "He's the one who told me to give you space after you left my house that day. Said if I chased you immediately, you'd run faster. So I waited. 3 months of waiting and hoping you'd reach out. I was never going to reach out. I know that now. Hence the flowers and the financial gymnastics and the eventual stalking." He ran a hand through his hair. "Not my finest moments. No. But I was almost smiling. Though the flowers were nice. I can send more flowers." "You're still sending them. Ingrid mentioned you have a standing order with 3 different florists." Covering my bases. He shifted slightly closer. "Astrid, I know we're not there yet. I know I'm still earning my way back. But I need you to know, I'm in this for life. Whether we're together or just co-parenting, whether you forgive me or just tolerate me, I'm not going anywhere. That should probably scare me more than it does. But it doesn't scare you." I thought about it. Really thought. "No, it's actually comforting, knowing you're committed regardless of how this plays out between us." "Then let me ask you something." He turned to face me fully. "If I were anyone else, if I didn't have the history we have, the mistakes I've made, would you give me a real chance? Not just co-parenting, but actually trying to build something together?" The question hung between us, weighted with possibility. I looked at him, at this complicated, dangerous, surprisingly vulnerable man who'd destroyed my heart and was now trying desperately to earn it back. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but I'm willing to find out." His kiss was tentative, asking permission with every movement. I granted it, leaning into the touch that still made my skin sing despite everything. When we broke apart, both breathing harder, his forehead rested against mine. "Thank you," he whispered, "for giving me this chance, for not giving up on us. And don't make me regret it. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you don't." We stayed like that for a long moment. Then I pulled back gently. "It's late. I'm exhausted. You promised just sleep, remember?" "I remember." He stood, offering his hand. "Lead the way." My bedroom was small, dominated by a full-size bed that would be tight with 2 people. Raphael looked at it with visible amusement. "This is going to be cozy. You can still leave. Sleep in your massive penthouse bed that probably costs more than my car. I don't own a car. I have drivers. You know what I mean." He smiled, stripping off his sweater to reveal a t-shirt underneath. I'm staying. Unless you'd rather I sleep on the couch? The bed is fine. I climbed in, moving to the far side. But no funny business. Wouldn't dream of it. He slid in beside me, and the mattress dipped under his weight, rolling me slightly toward him. Though your bed seems to have other ideas. It's a physics thing, weight distribution. Is that what we're calling it? I elbowed him gently. Sleep, Raphael. He settled, his arm coming around me naturally. I should have protested, should have reinforced boundaries. Instead, I relaxed into his warmth, my hand resting on my stomach where our child grew. Astrid? His voice was quiet in the darkness. I love you. I know I don't deserve to say it. I know I haven't earned it back yet. But I need you to know. I love you. And I'm going to prove it every day for the rest of our lives. Tears pricked my eyes. You can't just say that and expect. I don't expect anything. His hold tightened slightly. I just needed you to know. I didn't respond. Couldn't find words that matched the complicated tangle of emotions in my chest. Instead, I laced my fingers through his where they rested on my stomach, and fell asleep to the steady rhythm of his breathing. 2 weeks later, Dr. Meyer's office was crowded. Me, Raphael, Karen, who'd insisted on being there, and Ingrid standing discreetly by the door. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Ready to meet your baby properly? Dr. Meyer asked, warming the ultrasound gel. More than ready, I said, squeezing Raphael's hand. The screen flickered to life, showing our child in much greater detail than before. I could see fingers and toes, the curve of a spine, a perfect profile. Everything looks excellent, Dr. Meyer said, taking measurements. Growth is right on track. Heart rate is perfect. And, he paused dramatically. Would you like to know the gender? Yes, Raphael and I said simultaneously. Dr. Meyer smiled, adjusting the wand. Congratulations. You're having a girl. A daughter. I was having a daughter. We were having a daughter. I looked at Raphael and found tears streaming down his face, his expression a mixture of joy and awe that I'd never seen before. A girl, he whispered. We're having a girl. Karin was crying. Ingrid was smiling. Dr. Meyer was printing ultrasound photos. And I felt something shift permanently in my chest, the last wall around my heart crumbling in the face of Raphael's raw emotion. I love you too, I heard myself say. I'm still angry. I'm still scared. But I love you. He kissed me then, not caring about our audience, pouring everything he felt into that single touch. When we broke apart, Dr. Meyer was politely studying his computer screen, while Karen gave me enthusiastic thumbs up. So, Raphael said, his hand on my stomach where our daughter grew. A nursery in your apartment and mine? Let's start with yours, I said, making the decision I'd been avoiding for weeks. I'll keep my apartment as a backup, but yes, I'll move in with you. For her. For her, he agreed. And for us. Dr. Meyer cleared his throat. I hate to interrupt this lovely moment, but we do have other patients waiting, though I'm very happy for you both. We left the office in a daze of joy and possibility. Klaus was waiting outside with the car, taking one look at our faces and smiling. Good news, I take it? The best, Raphael said. We're having a daughter. Congratulations, sir. Miss Becker. Klaus held the door. Shall I arrange for the penthouse nursery to be repainted pink? Neutral colors, I corrected, sliding into the car. She can choose pink when she's old enough to have opinions. Smart woman, Klaus murmured to Raphael. You chose well. I know, Raphael said, taking my hand. Believe me, I know. 5 months later, on a warm June evening, Raphael and I stood in the penthouse nursery, putting final touches on the space we'd created for our daughter. "What about Helena?" I suggested, folding tiny clothes. "After your grandmother?" "My grandmother was terrifying. Let's not curse our child." He assembled the crib with surprising competence. "What about Grace, or Hope?" "Too obvious for a Mafia princess." He laughed, the sound warm and free. "She's not going to be a Mafia princess. She's going to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever she wants to be. As long as she's smart enough to avoid falling for dangerous men, I'll make sure she has excellent judgment, unlike her mother." I threw a stuffed animal at him, which he caught easily. Rude. Truthful. He set down his tools, crossing to pull me into his arms. "Though I'm eternally grateful for your terrible judgment. Otherwise, I wouldn't have this." His hands spanned my very pregnant stomach, and our daughter kicked in response, making us both laugh. "She's going to be trouble," I predicted. "She's going to be perfect," Raphael corrected, "just like her mother. Her mother is exhausted, swollen, and ready to not be pregnant anymore. Her mother is beautiful and strong, and about to give me the greatest gift of my life." He kissed me softly. "Any day now." Dr. Meyer said she could come any time in the next 2 weeks. Then we're ready. He looked around the nursery. Pale yellow walls, white furniture, shelves full of books and toys. "We're really ready." "Are we?" I searched his face. "Are you ready to be a father? To have this little person depending on you completely?" "I've been ready since the moment I saw her heartbeat on that ultrasound." He pulled me closer, as close as my stomach allowed. "I've been ready since you gave me a second chance I didn't deserve. I've been ready since you agreed to build this life with me. Even though I'm still stubborn and independent and refuse to let you make all the decisions. Especially because of that." His smile was pure love. "You make me better, Astrid. You and our daughter. You're my whole world." I looked at this man who'd broken my heart, and then spent months carefully putting it back together. Who'd learned to respect my boundaries while still protecting us fiercely. Who'd transformed from cold businessman to devoted partner and soon-to-be father. "I love you," I said, not for the first time, but still feeling the truth of it settle deeper. "Even when you're being overprotective and bossy and impossible. I love you too, even when you're being stubborn and defiant and making me sleep on the couch. I made you sleep on the couch once. It felt like more." Our daughter kicked again, harder this time, and we both laughed at her perfect timing. "She's already telling you you're wrong," I said. "She's already perfect." He kissed me again, deeper this time, just like her mother. 2 weeks later, Helena Grace Hoffman was born at sunrise, screaming her arrival to the world with lungs that promised she'd inherited both her parents' stubbornness. Raphael cut the cord with shaking hands, cried when they placed her in his arms, and whispered promises of protection and love that made the nurses tear up. And I watched this dangerous, powerful man transform into a father, knowing that all the pain and fear and broken trust had led us exactly where we needed to be. Together. Finally. Completely.